They warn her more than once. Quiet warnings, urgent warnings, warnings, wrapped in professional language and fear. They said memory does not survive instinct. They said 20 years is a lifetime in the wild. They said a silverback gorilla does not distinguish between love and threat. Once the forest claims him, they said if he charged, there would be no second chance. Margaret Hale heard every word and went. Anyway, the morning air in the Congolese rainforest was thick, heavy with moisture and anticipation. Leaves dripped from the night as rain, and somewhere deep in the canopy birds called in sharp, nervous bursts. The guides moved with rehearsed caution. Rifles slung low, tranquilizers checked and rechecked. No one spoke louder than a whisper. Every snort, snap, twig carried weight. Every step forward felt like a decision that could not be undone. Margaret walked slower, and the others, at 70 years old, her knees protested with each step, and the cane in her hand sagged slightly into the damper. Sweat gathered at the base of her neck, not only from the heat. Fear had a temperature. She could feel it, clinging to her skin, tightening her chest, slowing her breath. Yet her eyes were steady, focused, fixed on something far beyond the narrow trail. They had told her to stop here. This was far enough. Any closer, and the risk multiplied beyond reason. He asked not that same anymore, one of the trackers had said earlier, his voice careful but firm. He leads a group now. He has responsibilities. If he sees you as a threat, I know. Margaret had answered softly. What she did not say was that she also knew what it meant to carry a bond unfinished, what it meant to leave without closure, what it meant to wonder for 20 long years whether love had simply vanished into silence. The forest opened suddenly into a small clearing, light breaking through the leaves and pale columns. The guides froze. One raised a hand. Another slowly exhaled. Somewhere ahead, something large moved. Then came the sound. A deep, thunderous roar rolled through the trees, low and resonant, powerful enough to vibrate in the bones. Birds scattered. The ground seemed to hum beneath it. Margaret stopped walking, not because she was told to, but because her body understood before her mind could catch up. He was close, very close. The silverback emerged from the foliage with a presence that crushed the air around him. Massive shoulders, thick arms like carved stone, a broad chest that rose and fell with deliberate control. His fur shimmered dark and silver where the light touched it. His eyes, deep, intelligent, unreadable, locked onto the group in an instant. No one moved. The gorilla beat his chest once, twice. The sound echoed like a warning carved into the forest itself. This was not curiosity. This was assessment. Behind Margaret, a guy whispered, "Don T, move." Another tightened his grip on the tranquilizer gun, his knuckles white. If the gorilla charged, the distance was too short. Even a perfect shot might not be fast enough. Everyone there knew it. No one needed to say it out loud. Margaret's heart pounded so hard she was sure the animal could hear it. Her mouth was dry. Her fingers trembled against the handle of her cane. This was the moment every warning had pointed to, the moment where instinct would decide everything. The silverback took a step forward. The earth shifted under his weight. Leaves crunched. The air felt thinner, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Margaret could have stepped back. Everyone expected her to. Every reasonable instinct demanded it. She was fragile, slow, human, a single mistake away from disaster. But fear was not the strongest thing in her chest. something else rose instead, older than fear, deeper than logic, a pull she had felt across oceans and decades, a certainty that had followed her through sleepless nights and quiet rooms back home, a voice inside her that whispered, not with courage but with truth, "If you run now, you will never know." The gorilla took another step, the guides shifted barely, perceptibly, preparing for the worst. Margaret lifted her head, her eyes met his. In that suspended moment, time seemed to stretch thin. She was no longer a 70-year-old woman in a dangerous forest. She was also the woman she had been long ago, kneeling on straw floors, whispering comfort into darkness, singing to a frightened orphan. Life that had once depended entirely on her hands. The question burned in her chest, sharper than fear. Did he remember, or was she nothing more than a stranger standing where she should not be? The silverback's head tilted slightly, a subtle motion, almost curious. His gaze remained fixed on her, intense but not chaotic, calculating, searching. Behind her, someone whispered her name, a plea, a warning. Margaret did not turn around. If this was to end in tragedy, she would face it standing still, her breathing slowed, not because she was calm, but because she needed it to. The forest was quiet now, unnaturally so. Even the insects seemed to wait. Somewhere in the distance, a branch snapped sharp as a gunshot. The gorilla stopped moving close enough now that Margaret could see the fine scars along his arms, the subtle gray woven into his dark fur, the unmistakable authority in the way he held himself. This was no animal acting on impulse. This was a leader deciding what came next. Margaret felt the weight of every warning press against her spine. She understood fully and clearly that this was the point of no return. Whatever happened in the next few seconds would become the story people told forever, about recklessness or miracle or regret. Her lips parted, not to scream, not to plead, but to do the one thing that had carried her across 20 years of silence. The forest leaned in, and the world waited to see whether memory was stronger than instinct. Long before the forest fell silent around her, long before the warnings and the fear, Margaret Hale had already made her choice, quietly, slowly, and without ever announcing it to the world. She had chosen to remember. Memory was not something that came easily with age. Faces blurred, names slipped away, days folded into one another, yet there were some things time could not erode, no matter how many years passed. For Margaret, that unmovable memory lived in the shape of two small hands gripping her sleeve, and the weight of a frightened body pressed against her chest, in a sound she had learned to recognize as comfort rather than threat. She had been 50 when grief followed her life. The house in Sussex had grown unbearably quiet after her husband died. The walls seemed to echo with conversations that would never return. Her daughters called when they could visit it, when life allowed, but their voices carried the forward motion of youth. Margaret remained still, suspended in a space between what had been and what no longer felt possible. When the letter arrived, crease-typed, carrying the smell of foreign air, she almost didn't open it. An old colleague from her university days wrote about a primate rehabilitation program near Virunga, deep in the Congo. They needed volunteers, not professionals, not scientists. They needed patience, presence, someone willing to sit with the broken and wait. Margaret read the letter 3 times. At 50, she should have been thinking about safety, comfort, predictability. Instead, something in her chest stirred. For the first time in years, grief had not killed her capacity to love. It had only left it homeless. She left England quietly, no ceremony, as a single suitcase, a one-way flight, and a promise she did not yet know how to articulate. The forest met her with sound and color so overwhelming it almost hurt. Greens layered upon greens, humidity that clung to her skin like a living thing, nights alive with calls she could not name, and at the center of it all, a rehabilitation compound filled with wounded beginnings. That was where she met him. He was small then, too small. His fur was dull, his eyes too large for his thin face. He had been found clinging to his dead mother after poachers passed through the area. 3 years old, the caretaker as guest, old enough to know fear, young enough to be shaped by what came next. They warned Margaret not to rush it. He doesn't trust people, the veterinarian told her. He has been handled roughly. He bites when he panics. Margaret nodded and did what she always did when words failed. She sat down. She did not reach for him, did not coax or bribe. She simply existed nearby, breathing slowly, humming under her breath when the silence felt too sharp. It was an old lullaby, one she had once sung to her daughters. She did not expect it to matter. It did. The small gorilla listened before he looked. His body remained tense, but his breathing shifted over days, then weeks. He began to close the distance on his own terms. First a few steps, then an arm's length, then one careful touch, withdrawn immediately, as if testing the world's response. Margaret never flinched. Trust, she learned, was not built through intention, but through consistency, through staying, through not leaving when fear appeared. He followed her eventually, not because he was told to, but because he wanted to. He learned the rhythm of her movements, the sound of her footsteps. When nightmares startled him awake, he found her without being guided. When she sat, he leaned. When she rested, he pressed close enough to feel her heartbeat. They healed together, though neither of them named it that way. Years passed. Margaret stayed far longer than she ever planned. 5 years became a lifetime. Measured in growth, the gorilla grew. Strong, broad shoulders, powerful arms, a confidence that transformed fear into curiosity. With her, he remained gentle, careful, as if he knew her bones were not made for the weight he carried. The staff noticed, whispered. Some worried the bond was too deep, but Margaret understood what the world often misunderstood about love. It was not ownership, it was preparation for letting go. When her joints began to fail, when pain settled into her knees and refused to leave, she knew the truth before the doctor said it aloud. Her body could no longer keep pace with the forest. The decision to leave came quietly, wrapped in denial and delay, until it could no longer be avoided. The farewell broke something in her that never fully healed. She did not explain. Words would only confuse him. Instead, she sat with him beneath a tree. Heat favored her hands, moving through his fur, as if committing him to muscle memory. He sensed the change. His restlessness grew. When she stood to leave, he followed until others gently intervened. She did not look back. England was colder than she remembered, smaller. Her world narrowed to doctors' offices and careful routines. Surgeries followed. Time passed. Photographs became stand-ins for touch. Every night she spoke to a memory that could not answer. But she never stopped believing he was out there. When news came that he had been fully reintegrated into the wild, healthy dominant, leading his own group, she cried with pride and grief in equal measure. The world had given him back to himself. That was the point of loving him in the first place. Still, something remained unfinished. As her 70th birthday approached, Margaret felt time closing in. Not urgently, but unmistakably. She did not want her life to end with questions left untouched. She did not need a miracle. She needed truth. Did he remember? That question followed her back into the forest, now standing in the open clearing with her cane pressed into soft earth, a silverback's gaze fixed on her like a living horizon. She was not here to reclaim anything. She was here to honor what had been real, and whatever happened next, whether recognition bloomed or instinct erased the past, Margaret Hale stood rooted in the quiet certainty that love once given freely never truly disappears. It waits, sometimes for decades, sometimes at the edge of a forest, breathing softly, refusing to forget. The day Margaret Hale left the forest did not announce itself with thunder or ceremony. It arrived quietly, disguised as another humid morning, another chorus of insects, another routine that pretended nothing was ending, but endings, she would later learn, rarely asked for permission. She woke before dawn, her joints stiff and aching in ways that had become familiar over the past year. The pain was not sharp, it was worse than that, persistent, patient, unyielding. It followed her as she dressed, as she folded the few clothes she had kept, as she stood for a long moment in the doorway of the small wooden cabin that had been her home for half a decade, the forest breath around her indifferent and eternal. She had not slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same image, dark eyes watching her leave, not understanding why she would walk away again. The doctors in the capital had been clear: advanced arthritis, degenerative damage, treatment available only back home. If she stayed, the forest she loved would eventually take everything she had left to give. The choice was logical. That was what made it unbearable. She did not tell him she was leaving. Words, even if he could have understood them, would have been a betrayal. How could she explain that love sometimes demanded absence, that staying would have turned care into dependency, protection into harm? Instead, she asked for one last morning. They brought him to the clearing just after sunrise. He moved with the ease of strength, fully claimed, no longer cautious, no longer tentative. Time had shaped him into something powerful and certain, and when he saw her, his pace quickened, not in excitement, but in recognition. That alone nearly broke her. They sat beneath the wide branches of an ancient tree, its roots twisted like old hands, gripping the earth. He lowered himself beside her, resting his head against her thigh with the trust of habit. The weight of him was comforting and devastating all at once. Margaret let her hand move slowly through his fur, memorizing textures she already knew by heart. She did not cry at first. She had learned that tears unsettled him. Instead, she breathed deeply and focused on the sound of him, steady, alive, real. She hummed softly the same melody she had sung years earlier, when fear had been his constant companion. That sound was weaker now, her voice thinned by age, but the rhythm remained. His eyes closed. Time stretched, then collapsed. When she finally stood, her knees protested sharply, and for a fleeting, selfish moment, she considered staying anyway. Let the forest take her. Let pain become the price of presence. But she saw the future. That choice would create a woman growing weaker, a gorilla growing confused, a bond turning into a cage. She would not let love do that to either of them. She placed her forehead briefly against his, a gesture she had never allowed herself before, and stepped back. He rose immediately. She forced herself not to reach for him. When he followed, not to soften the boundary she had just drawn, the caretakers intervened, gently guiding him away with practiced care. But the sound he made then, a low, confused call, sliced through her resolve. Margaret did not look back. That goodbye followed her across continents. England received her with gray skies and the smell of antiseptic. Hospitals replaced trees. Silence replaced life. Surgeries came in succession, each one promising improvement, each one demanding patience. She did not always have. Recovery was slow. Pain retreated, but never disappeared. Mobility returned, but incompletely. Her world shrank to manageable distances and careful steps. At night, when the ache in her joints pulsed in time with memory, she lay awake and wondered if she had been wrong. What if he thought she had abandoned him? What if the bond she believed in had shattered the moment she left? These questions did not fade. With time they grew sharper, heavier, carving a hollow place inside her that nothing else could fill. She filled her apartment with photographs, him small and frightened, him growing curious, him strong and watchful. Friends visited, family called. Life continued as it always does, indifferent to unresolved grief. Years passed. Her hair turned fully white, her hearing dull. She learned the geography of her limitations, where she could go and how long she could stay. She moved closer to the sea, where the sound of waves reminded her vaguely of the forest at night. Occasionally, an email arrived from the rehabilitation center. Brief updates. He was doing well. He had adapted. He had been released fully into protected territory. He led a group now. Each message brought relief, followed immediately by loss. She was proud of him in the way only distance allows. Proud of his independence. Proud of his survival. Proud that she had not stayed long enough to interfere with the life he was meant to have. Still, the goodbye never healed. It lived in her body, and the way her chest tightened whenever she heard a deep, resonant sound. It surfaced in dreams where she was always leaving, always walking away, always promising to return without knowing how. People told her she had done the right thing. She nodded and smiled and agreed that right choices could still wound deeply. Moral clarity did not guarantee emotional peace. As she aged, the fear shifted. It was no longer about whether he remembered her, it was about whether she would die without knowing. That thought settled in quietly, becoming more insistent with each passing year. She did not want to reclaim anything. She did not want to disrupt his life or pretend time had not passed. She wanted closure, not the tidy kind, but the honest kind, the kind that allowed love to rest instead of ache. When the idea of returning first formed, it terrified her. Everyone she spoke to warned her against it. He was wild now, dangerous, unpredictable. The forest was unforgiving to the slow and the fragile. They were right, but none of them understood what it meant to carry a goodbye that never ended. Margaret did not believe love demanded guarantees. It demanded courage, the courage to accept whatever truth awaited her, even if that truth was indifference, especially if it was. The decision did not come with drama. One night, lying awake with the familiar weight of memory pressing against her chest. She understood that the risk of going was smaller than the risk of regret. She did not want her final chapter to be written in hesitation. So she began to prepare slowly, carefully, without illusions. She did not expect a reunion. She hoped for recognition, and she accepted at last that even if he did not remember her face, the love she had given him had already mattered because it had changed them both. Some goodbyes echo for a lifetime, and some journeys exist not to undo them, but to finally lay them to rest. The forest changed its rhythm the moment Margaret Hill stepped into the clearing. It was not something anyone announced aloud. There was no signal, no sound, no visible warning. Yet every living thing seemed to pause, as if the jungle itself were holding its breath. Margaret felt it before she understood it. The air thick and heavy, with damp earth and crushed leaves. Her cane sank slightly into the soft ground as she stopped walking. Ahead of her, shadows shifted among the trees, broad shapes moving with deliberate slowness. They had found him. The guides froze behind her. One raised his hand, instinctively signaling stillness, silence, restraint. Another's fingers tightened around the tranquilizer rifle. He had sworn he would not use unless absolutely necessary. Margaret sensed the tension at her back without turning around. She knew what they were thinking, because she was thinking it too. This was the moment everyone had warned her about, the moment where memory failed, the moment instinct took over, the moment a 70-year-old woman realized that love, however sincere, might not be enough to stop for 100 pounds of muscle and bone from doing what nature had designed it to do. A deep sound rolled through the clearing. It was not a roar, not yet. It was lower, resonant, vibrating through the ground and up through Margaret's legs into her chest. She gripped her cane harder, not to steady herself physically, but to anchor herself to the present. Then he stepped into the light. Time collapsed. Keo was larger than memory had prepared her for. His silver back shimmered faintly where sunlight broke through the canopy, a living testament to years spent surviving without her. His arms were thick as tree trunks, his hands broad and powerful, fingers capable of crushing bone or cradling something fragile. His eyes found her immediately. They were the same deep brown she remembered, but older, now sharper, layered with intelligence and authority. This was no orphan cub. This was a leader, a guardian, a force that commanded obedience from the forest itself. That females retreated instinctively, drawing the younger ones close. Leaves rustled as bodies shifted into defensive positions. Keo took one step forward. The guides inhaled sharply. Margaret did not move. Every instinct she had as a human being screamed at her to step back, to put distance between herself and the embodiment of raw, unfiltered power. Standing less than 20 meters away, her knees trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of choice pressing down on her. If she ran, he would chase. If she screamed, he would react. If she raised her cane, he would see threat. The forest offered no neutral ground. Keo tilted his head slightly, studying her with unsettling focus. He was not angry. He was assessing, measuring, deciding. Margaret's heart pounded so loudly she was certain he could hear it. Behind her, someone whispered her name, a plea. Wrapped in fear, she ignored it, not because she was brave, but because there was nothing left to negotiate with. This was the truth she had come for. She took a step forward. The guards reacted Instantly, a hand grabbed at the air behind her, missing her coat by inches. Someone swore under their breath. The rifle rose, then hesitated. Cato responded immediately. He surged forward, closing half the distance in a blur of motion that made the ground shudder. Leaves exploded beneath his hands as he came down hard, chest expanded, dominance unmistakable. The sound he released and was deafening, a warning that shook birds from the trees and rattled something ancient inside. Margaret as bones. This was the moment that would end everything. Margaret felt fear wash through her in a cold, sobering wave. Not fear of pain, fear of finality, fear that the story she had carried for decades was about to close in the most brutal way imaginable. And beneath that fear was something worse, the fear that he did not remember her at all, that all the nights she had sung, all the hours she had sat in silence beside him, all the care she had given, had been swallowed by time and instinct, reduced to nothing more than an echo in her own heart. Her throat tightened, her hands shook, and still she did not step back. Instead, Margaret lifted her chin, steadied her breath, and did the only thing that had ever reached him when he was afraid. She sang. The sound that left her lips was thin, fragile, nothing like the voice she once had. It wavered, caught on emotion, threatened to break apart entirely, but the melody was the same, unchanged, carried across decades and oceans and loss. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Keo held his position, muscles coiled, eyes locked onto her face. The forest remained frozen, caught between violence and wonder. Then his expression shifted. It was subtle, a minute change in posture, a softening around the eyes. His massive head tilted again, this time not in challenge, but in confusion, recognition. The sound of his breathing changed, slower, deeper, less aggressive. Margaret kept singing. She did not dare stop, even as tears blurred her vision. She sang through the ache in her chest, through the tremor in her voice, through the terror that still clung to her bones. Each note was a bridge she was building in real time, uncertain if it would hold. Quito took another step forward. The guest tensed, fingers white-knuckled around their weapons. One whispered a prayer. Another closed his eyes, but Quito did not charge. He approached slowly now, deliberately, each movement measured. He lowered himself until he was level with her, his face inches from hers. Margaret could see the fine scars on his skin. The lines time had etched into him just as it had etched into her. She stopped singing. The silence was unbearable. Keo reached out. His hand, enormous and rough, hovered near her face. Margaret did not flinch. She did not close her eyes. She let him see her fully. Every wrinkle, every mark time had left behind. His fingers brushed her cheek. The contact was impossibly gentle. A sound escaped from his chest, then low and resonant, not a warning, but a recognition. It vibrated through her, through the ground, through the clearing that had moments earlier been on the brink of catastrophe. Margaret sobbed openly. "Now you remember," she whispered, her voice breaking completely. "You remember me." Quito's hand remained on her face, as if anchoring her there, as if afraid she might disappear again. He leaned closer, resting his forehead briefly against hers, the way he had done as a frightened child, seeking reassurance. Behind them, the forest exhaled. The guides lowered their weapons slowly. Disbelief etched into their faces. No one spoke. No one moved. The world had narrowed to a single impossible moment. where fear gave way to something older and deeper than instinct, love, not the sentimental kind, the kind that survives, separation, that endures transformation, that recognizes a soul even when the body carrying it has changed. Beyond recognition, Keo eased himself down beside her, his weight shaking the ground as he settled calm and unguarded. Margaret's legs finally gave way, and she sat leaning into his presence, overwhelmed and unbroken. The moment everyone had feared did not end in tragedy. It ended in truth, and nothing would ever be the same again. When the sun began to tilt westward, the forest slowly reclaimed its voice. Birds resumed their calls, tentative at first, then confident. Insects hummed again in the undergrowth. Somewhere far off, a branch snapped, and life continued as if nothing extraordinary had occurred yet. For those standing in that clearing, the world had been irrevocably altered. Margaret Hale sat on the forest floor, her back supported by the steady warmth of Keto's body. She could feel the rise and fall of his breathing, deep and calm, a rhythm that grounded her more effectively than any medicine ever had. The terror that had clenched her heart earlier was gone, replaced by a quiet, overwhelming sense of rightness. This was what love remembered, not faces as they once were, not voices as they used to sound, but something far more enduring, a feeling stored beneath instinct, beneath survival, beneath fear. Keto remained beside her for a long time. He did not fidget or scan the trees anxiously. His posture was relaxed, almost domestic, as if this elderly woman leaning against him belonged there as naturally as the forest itself. When Margaret shifted slightly, wincing as her stiff joints protested, he adjusted without thought, subtly repositioning himself so she would not strain. The guides watched from a respectful distance, was unsure whether they were witnesses to a miracle or participants in something they had no language for. Years of training had taught them how animals behaved under stress, how dominance displays worked, how unpredictable encounters could turn lethal in seconds. None of that applied here. What they were seeing did not fit inside manuals or documentaries. Margaret lifted her hand and rested it on Keo's arm. The muscle beneath her fingers was solid, powerful, alive. She traced the familiar line of his fur, silver threaded through black, feeling the years between them collapse. Her voice was barely above a whisper when she spoke, not to explain, not to analyze, but simply to exist in the moment. I worried you'd be gone, she said softly, or worse, that you'd forgotten. Keto turned his head slightly, his eyes meeting hers again. There was no way to know what he understood in human terms, but the sound he made then was unmistakable, low, gentle, resonant. It vibrated against her ribs like an answer. She smiled through tears. Time passed differently after that. Minutes stretched, then blurred. Margaret spoke quietly, telling him things she had carried for years, with no place to put them. She spoke of England, of cold mornings and quiet rooms, of how the sea outside her window never quite replaced the sound of rain on broad leaves. She spoke of growing older, of loss, of the long ache of wondering if loving him had been a chapter with no ending. Keto listened. Whether he understood the words did not matter. He understood her presence, her tone, her intent. That had always been enough. Eventually the forest shifted again. The light softened, turning amber as evening approached. The other gorillas began to move with purpose, gathering, preparing for night. Kio's attention flickered toward them. Responsibility pulling gently but firmly, Margaret noticed immediately. This time the ache in her chest was different. It was not panic or desperation, it was acceptance. "You have a life," she murmured. "I know." Quito rose slowly to his full height. Even now the sheer scale of him was breathtaking. He stood there for a moment, looking down at her as if memorizing her in return. Then, with deliberate care, he leaned down once more and touched his forehead to hers. It was a goodbye without fear. Margaret closed her eyes, committing the sensation to memory, the warmth, the weight, the knowledge that this connection once formed had never truly broken. When she opened her eyes again, Quito was already turning away, moving back toward his group with the same quiet authority he had shown as their leader. He paused once at the edge of the clearing, glancing back over his shoulder. Their eyes met one last time. Then he was gone, absorbed by the forest that had raised him, protected him, and now claimed him fully. Margaret remained seated long after the clearing was empty. No one rushed her. The guides understood instinctively that the stillness was necessary. When she finally allowed them to help her to her feet, her movements were slow, but her expression was peaceful in a way none of them had seen before. On the walk back to the research camp, she said very little. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase. The questions that had haunted her for decades had been answered not with explanations, but with presence. That night, lying beneath a mosquito net, listening to the forest breathe around her, Margaret placed a hand over her heart and felt each beat with quiet gratitude. She did not know how many years she had left. She only knew that whatever remained would be lighter. Love had remembered her, and in being remembered, she had been healed. The world would never fully understand what happened in that clearing. Some would call it coincidence, others projection, others still a dangerous romanticization of wildlife. Margaret did not argue with any of it. She did not need the story to be believed. It had already done what it was meant to do. Some bonds, she realized, are not erased by time or distance or transformation. They are written deeper than memory, carried not in the mind, but in something far older and wiser. As sleep finally claimed her, Margaret smiled softly into the dark. She had come seeking closure. What she found was something far rarer. She found that love, once given freely, never truly forgets. In the end, this story is not truly about danger or even about a miraculous reunion between a human and a wild animal. It is about something far deeper, something that quietly challenges how we understand love, memory, and the invisible bonds that shape our lives. Margaret's journey reminds us that some connections are not measured by time, distance, or logic. 20 years passed, bodies age, worlds changed. One became frail and human, the other powerful and wild. And yet, when they stood face to face again, what mattered was not what they had become, but what they once gave to each other without conditions, care, presence, safety, love. One of the most powerful lessons from this story is that kindness is never wasted. At the time Margaret chose to care for a broken orphan gorilla, she had no expectation of reward. She did not imagine a future reunion, global attention, or a moment that would move millions of people. She simply acted from compassion during a season of her own grief, and yet that single choice echoed across decades. It returned to her in a moment when she needed healing. the most, not as repayment, but as proof that goodness leaves traces. The story also challenges the way we often underestimate animals. We are taught to see them as creatures driven purely by instinct, incapable of memory or emotional depth beyond survival. And while science may debate the mechanics, moments like this remind us that the natural world is far richer and more complex than our categories allow. Animals may not remember us the way humans do, but they remember how we made them feel. Safety, fear, trust, love. Those impressions do not simply vanish. There is also a deeply human lesson here about courage. Margaret was warned, she was afraid, she knew the risks, yet she chose to move forward, not recklessly, but honestly. She understood that some regrets are heavier than fear. Her courage was not loud or dramatic, it was quiet, trembling, and deeply human. It teaches us that bravery does not always mean charging ahead without fear. Sometimes it means stepping forward while fear walks beside us. Perhaps most importantly, this story reminds us that healing does not always come in the way we expect. Margaret did not return to the forest to change the past. She returned to make peace with it. And in doing so, she discovered that closure is not about answers. It is about connection, about being seen, about knowing that love once given sincerely leaves a mark that time cannot erase. For all of us, there is a message here. The small acts of kindness we offer today may become someone else's miracle tomorrow. We may never witness the full impact of our compassion, but that does not make it any less real. Love has a long memory. If this story touched you, moved you, or made you pause and reflect, that means its purpose has already been fulfilled. And there are many more stories like this, stories of animals, humans, courage, compassion, and the quiet miracles that happen when hearts remain open. If you believe in these stories, if you believe that kindness matters and that love can bridge even the wildest divides, please support this channel by subscribing. Your support gives us the motivation to continue bringing you powerful, meaningful stories that inspire, heal, and remind us of the beauty still present in the world. Thank you for being part of this journey.